I just need y'all prayers. I need y'all to... I don't even know what to say.
Breaking news just coming into our newsroom. 2 fugitives wanted by the FBI, including a longtime accused L.A. gang leader, now in custody tonight.
Music executive and alleged L.A. gang leader Eugene Henley Jr. is heading to trial. Last month, he was named in a 43-county federal indictment, and this afternoon, he pleaded not guilty.
I'm back with another video. This federal Rico has turned out to be more of a soap opera drama rather than an actual Rico case. Big U can't seem to catch a break. Every time I look up, if it isn't one thing, it's another. Wack 100, who was partly to blame for Big U being investigated, indicted, and finally arrested, has turned his story around faster than LeBron's hairline has mysteriously grown back.
So you got to remember, like, I don't reading what I'm reading, I've never seen him operate in that capacity.
Okay.
But that just goes back to the stories you hear. But who is he? Oh, he did boom, 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 boom. So it just looked to me like he went into survival mode and you know, I know the dude, the dispensary owner.
Oh, okay.
I've done business with him.
Okay.
Like he would call, I think the last thing I did, I booked Sada Baby for him downtown. But he called me about October. He like, bro, you know what? With you, bro, it was always straight business, man. I give you the money, you make sure the people there, and boom, boom, boom. So, you know, when it comes to weed and all that type of stuff, I shy away from it. I really don't like to deal with it because it's not approved on the Fed side. But a lot of stuff I'm reading, and some of it I still really, I'm kind of like, it's missing some pieces. I can't see him. I can't see Big U shooting a kid in the face that once lived in his house, right? Over a diss song.
Because there has to have been so many different times over the years, even since he's been free, in which he would have had much better reason to clap somebody than that situation. Like that just doesn't seem like it would have risen to the level of being.
Let me tell you,
if he killed that kid, he probably should have killed like 20 other people.
No, listen. Some of you in the comment section may say that Wack 100 isn't to blame for Big U's arrest. Itself, however, would beg to differ, as Wack has been on a Big U smear campaign for years. If you have been keeping up with the case, you are already aware that Eugene Henley, aka Big U, was arraigned on April the 8th of 2025, in which he would enter a plea of not guilty.
Music executive and alleged L.A. gang leader Eugene Henley Jr. is heading to trial. Last month, he was named in a 43-county federal indictment, and this afternoon, he pleaded not guilty during his arraignment. Prosecutors accuse Henley of running a criminal enterprise involving murder, human trafficking, robbery, and extortion. They also say Henley, known as Big U, has ties to the notorious Rollin' 60s neighborhood Crips street gang. His trial is scheduled for May 20th.
Big U's case was assigned to Judge Fernando L. Enal Rocha. Unbeknownst to many, on April the 5th of 2025, Big U filed a request to substitute attorney Arturo Hernandez in place of attorney John Trzaskowski. On April the 11th of 2025, Big U's request to substitute attorneys was granted. However, the most disturbing turn of events wouldn't be the substitution of attorneys. Instead, it would be the government's response regarding Big U's filing for a reconsideration of bond hearing that was filed on April the 21st of 2025. According to the United States government, the court should see through the farce that Big U is putting on and keep him in custody for the safety of the community. The government would also state, to avoid custody, that Big U would no doubt continue his alleged double dealing, as he allegedly did to celebrities and donors that he duped into believing they were helping young underprivileged athletes choose their dreams, when in reality they were unwittingly lining Big U's pockets as he embezzled donations after donation, further stating that even in his short time in custody, that Big U is up to his old tricks, once again trying to use some of those same celebrities for his personal gain. You can definitely tell that the feds are playing hardball, as this sounds like to me that the professional athletes that Big U allegedly extorted are willing to admit to the government that they were not extorted at all. To prevent those words from holding any weight, the feds are spinning the narrative as if Big U is manipulating the athletes. I swear, bruh, you can't make this shit up. To take it even further, the feds would mention in the document how Big U even suggested that he can manipulate the president of the United States into intervening in the case and dropping the charges, all while not forgetting to bring up the fact that Big U is not a Trump supporter and has referred to the president as the Orange Man, all while in custody. Let's just be clear, for the feds to have this kind of knowledge of what Big U is planning on doing, who he plans on doing it with, as well as all of the other information that they are using in the docs, a jailhouse snitch has definitely been placed around Big U. At this point, the snitch can be anyone, someone that Big U is talking to in the dorm, or maybe even his cellie. One thing that I can say about Big U is this: he is at least smart enough not to hop on podcasts from the phone system at FDC Los Angeles, unlike Brick Baby in the fake loose cannon. This whole entire case has become full circle. If I'm keeping it a buck, I honestly don't see the feds giving Big U a bond. The steepest mountains that Big U will have to climb are the statements and testimony that will be presented in court by prosecutors that they have obtained from the snitches and or informants on the case. Here is something else that I find very interesting in the recent docs filed by the federal government. It is alleged that on multiple intercepted phone calls, Big U talked about beating up or at least breaking a witness's jaw. The government would also state that while Big U may claim other reasons for feuding with that witness, this court should protect that witness. As I can recall, the only person that Big U was caught on wiretap threatening to break his jaw was none other than Cash Jones, aka Whack 100. Now peep this, the situation gets even more scandalous as the feds would once again bring up the murder of Rayshawn Williams. In typical corrupt criminal justice fashion, the government will write, and I quote, "Any supporters the defendant may offer us sureties will not protect the community. They did not save R.W., whom defendant murdered and abandoned in the desert. They did not save defendant's countless extortion and embezzlement victims, whom defendant terrorized or tricked for years. They did not stop defendant from leaving Los Angeles in the midnight hours before his arrest or hurling thinly veiled threats in the lead up to his surrender, ultimately going on to state that the court should have no trouble finding that Big U represents a danger and risk of non-compliance with court orders that cannot be adequately mitigated through release conditions. The utmost respect to pretrial services, pretrial supervision is not enough. For the sake of the community, defendant should remain in custody. This shit is wild. As currently charged, Big U faces a statutory maximum of well over 600 years, even discounting Big U's criminal history due to his age. Currently charged, Big U faces a likely guideline range of life in prison based on a total offense level of 43 for count one alone.
And one of the things that my clients frequently ask me right off the bat is, if I get convicted of this federal crime, how much jail time am I likely to do? And the answer to that question is actually pretty complicated, and it requires you to understand a little bit about the federal sentencing guidelines. And that's what the purpose of this video blog today is about. It's about the federal sentencing guidelines. Now, first and foremost, we have to understand that a conviction for a federal criminal charge typically carries a minimum and a maximum statutory sentence, which is to say that the law itself tells you what is the minimum possible and the maximum possible sentence for a particular charge. For example, in federal child pornography cases, a lot of those cases have 5-year mandatory minimum jail sentences. So there's nothing you can do if you get convicted of that crime to get yourself a sentence less than 5 years in jail. Okay? But then the federal sentencing guidelines typically narrow things down for judges a little bit and give you a little bit better idea of what you can realistically expect to get within that range of the statutory minimum and statutory maximum. Now you have to understand the federal sentencing guidelines are actually just that. They are guidelines. They are not mandatory. Judges don't have to follow the guidelines, but the truth is that they usually do. And the federal sentencing guidelines have been promulgated by the federal government, and it just reflects their opinion as to what an appropriate sentence for a particular conviction or a particular type of defendant ought to be, and most federal judges, at least they have to address the federal sentencing guidelines in making their decision, and most of the time they adhere to those guidelines in arriving at their sentence, but not always. So the next question becomes, how do the guidelines work? Well, the guidelines are actually set forth in a chart, and I can show you somewhat how this works with this blown up version of the chart. Now this chart is available online. You can look at the Federal Sentencing Guidelines sentencing chart, or you can find it on our website. Okay? Now, if you can see here, there are a number of little boxes up and down this chart. And inside those boxes are numbers, and those numbers represent a range in months for the guideline sentence that might apply to a particular defendant. So up here, for example, it says 0 to 6 in this little white box, and that represents a guideline sentence of 0 to 6 months in jail for somebody who falls within that part of the sentencing guidelines. Now down here, for example, this is for a much more serious offense and someone with a much more serious criminal record. This sentencing guideline range is 92 to 115 months, which puts you more in the range of about 8 years or more. Okay. Now there's two axes obviously on this chart, and so in order to decide where a person falls in the federal sentencing guidelines, you have to do two things. First, you have to determine the criminal history category of the defendant. Okay, that's this axis, this x-axis up here. Okay, over here, this would represent somebody who has no criminal record or a very minor criminal record. And this over here represents somebody who has a very bad criminal record, unfortunately, multiple felony convictions that might make them a career offender, as that term is used. So the sentences in this column are understandably less severe than the sentences over in this column. If you have a large criminal record, your sentences under the guidelines are going to be more severe. So first you determine where on the spectrum here, in terms of criminal history, you would fall. And then the next thing you have to do is determine the offense level for the particular crime that has been committed. So up here, this would be a very low level offense. This is the offense level 1, and this down here at the bottom is offense level 43. 43 would be a very, very serious type of crime. We're talking about homicides and conspiracies to commit as such. Okay? And up here would be low level offenses. So up here, obviously, where there's a low criminal record and a low offense level, these are where the sentences are most lenient. And as a criminal defendant, you want to find yourself up here, not down here, where the sentences are enormous. Okay? So every crime, based on the facts of that crime, has a sort of a presumptive or initial offense level. And that depends largely on the facts of that particular crime.